So when it comes to breastfeeding, position and latch is everything. And today we're going to talk about how to get the baby to the breast, how to ensure your baby's positioned well and taking a really large mouthful so that milk transfer is optimal. I'm Dr. Sonali Santanam, founder of Birth Basics and your host through the Birth Workshop. So let's get started. So early days postpartum, you're going to be sitting in a chair to feed your baby very often, every 2 hours in fact, your baby wakes to feed, and it's very important that you're comfortable when you breastfeed. You're going to spend approximately 20 minutes on each breast, so that's 40 minutes per feed every 2 hours. Comfort is absolutely essential. So if you see what I'm doing right now, breastfeeding without any support, any props, my body keeps leaning forward and I tend to lean into the baby. Now this is going to cause back pain, shoulder pain, and honestly the baby is also not latched very well in this position. So few simple things to get it much more comfortable for you. I highly recommend having a stool under your foot. So the minute you put your foot up and your feet are planted on that stool, knees pointing up to the ceiling, you have the baby closer to you. Now a lot of times I find moms keep the stool but then they put the legs out and that's of no use. You want to make sure your knees are close up to the ceiling. And you definitely want to pad the back up so that your back is supported and you're not rounding. So you have something to lean back into. Baby comes to you. Now if you see, I still have a gap over here, which means that as the baby gets older, starts gaining weight, I'm not going to be able to support the weight of my baby for too long. Again, it's going to cause a little bit of neck pain. So to fill this gap, I highly recommend using a breastfeeding pillow. Now you could use a breastfeeding pillow or any pillow, like I'm using a nice soft padded pillow. It's important that it's soft and contours to your body and doesn't stick out, right? And now if you see, I'm so much more comfortable with the baby close to me, right? And another thing I want to point out is, oftentimes I find that moms use a breastfeeding pillow, but the baby's resting on the pillow, mom's holding the baby. But this is not a good setup. I want you to support the baby completely and the pillow is for your support. So this is very important to remember, that the pillow is there for you and you're still holding the baby in your arms. Positioning the baby to your breast using the cross cradle hold. So when you're using a cross cradle hold, you are positioning the baby using your right hand at the left breast. So the baby comes across, right? And if you look at the position of my hand, it goes from ear to ear. My wrist supports the baby's upper back and the length of the forearm is along the baby's spine, right? So your baby's bum is also on the forearm, the legs are tucked in over here. So the whole baby I can support on my forearm using this position. It's very important to go ear to ear and not hold the baby's head for this. This is a very common mistake because then you'll drive the baby's nose into your breast. You want to give your baby freedom to move its head back, okay? The other hand supports the breast itself. You lift the breast up and follow all the techniques that we've taught you to latch the baby. It's the same set. You tickle the nose, the upper lip. When your baby opens wide, you bring the baby to the breast, right? So this is going to give you a really good latch using your cross cradle position. So the cross cradle hold is extremely useful if you have painful nipples because there are cracks, and then it just gives you more control because you're holding the baby, you're holding the breast, and also of course you're bringing the baby across your body so that there's a lot more support you can use with both hands. The biggest con with the cross cradle is you need to have something to support the other hand. Now in this chair you can see that I have really good support on both sides, but if this handle wasn't there, you'd find that your arm starts to hurt. So make sure you find a chair where you can be fully supported, and of course as usual you're going to have a pillow under the baby between your lap and the baby's back. Now, ways in which you can hold your baby. So this is the most traditional way. You might have seen this a lot. If you've seen an ad about someone breastfeeding, they're probably in this position, right? Now this is called the cradle hold, and if you see, I'm cradling the baby in the crook of my arm, my hand goes around the baby and the baby comes to the breast. This is a great way, it's a very instinctive way. Most moms like to hold the baby this way, but some of the benefits, of course, is that it's very natural, but one of the biggest cons of holding the baby in the cradle hold is it gives your baby a lot of freedom. They're going to go all over the place and then latch only on the tip of the nipple, and this can be painful. If you already have pain with breastfeeding, I would highly recommend switching to what we call the cross cradle hold. So in the cross cradle hold, you're holding the baby, you're holding the breast, and this just gives you a lot more control. So you know what you're doing, you know how to get the baby on, and then when you latch the baby, you can definitely do it without as much pain. And then finally we have the football hold, where you might want to shift the position of your pillow for this, and then the baby comes from this side. And it's called a football hold because you're holding your baby like an American football, right? And it's also called the clutch hold because it's like holding a purse under your arm, right? So you have the baby here, and once again the baby's turned into you and you're supporting the baby. Now again, this is very much like your cross cradle because you're holding the baby, you're supporting the breast, and you're bringing the two together. One of the other benefits of using the football is if you've had a C-section, this takes the baby away from the incision site, and then there isn't so much pressure down over here. So the football or the clutch is definitely a great option if you have twins, so one on each side, or if you've had a C-section and you want to prevent any pressure on the incision site. And of course, it's a good idea to switch things up a bit once in a while, because if you're sitting in the same position for a long time, then again it's going to cause aches and pains, and I highly recommend switching up the positions as you go through the day. So now if you were to sit in bed and feed, now of course you want to be comfortable, and sitting in a chair all the time, or even at night getting in and out of the bed to feed each time is not easy. So you can just sit in bed and feed, and in fact this is called the biological position because in the early days after birth we highly recommend breastfeeding in a laid back or biological position. So you're going to just recline, make sure you have enough pillows behind you. You can form a nest around you with ample pillows, and your baby literally comes on to you. Okay, so your baby is across the body, and I know that this almost seems like the baby is going to have to hold its neck, support its neck, but humans are actually ventral feeders, which means that when the baby's chest is supported by your chest, your baby has the freedom of movement and the strength to lift its head up. So when you put your baby on your breast without any assistance, you'll find that the baby is actually able to bob its head up and down, literally crawl up to the breast and self-attach, right? So your baby is completely guided by its sense of smell. So it can smell the nipple, which actually smells like the amniotic fluid inside your womb, and that gives the baby direction. So the biological position is also very comfortable if you have a very forceful letdown. In some cases, the milk comes out so fast that if you're sitting upright, the milk gushes into the baby's mouth, and it can cause, coughing, gagging, or spluttering. So if you see this happening very often, simply get the baby into bed. You can latch the baby on if that makes it easier for you, and then get into a recline. So this will put you into a good position for laid back breastfeeding. Another position that you can feed in bed is called the football position or the clutch, right? So you have one pillow, you need two pillows for this. You have one pillow along the length of your leg, and the second pillow goes across. So make sure you're using a pillow that you can really wrap around your body. And yes, you can also use a breastfeeding pillow, but I find that normal pillows work, really well. And the pillow comes really close. It's right under the breast, and you're going to have your baby supported fully by your forearm and hand turned into your breast, and that's how you feed. So again, this is a great position because look at how comfortable you are when you're in this position, right? You're on a full recline and the baby is fully supported by the pillow. You're really using minimal support at your end to hold the baby up. And if you're doing this in the middle of the night, you can even catch a little snooze. It's perfectly fine for you to fall asleep with the baby in this position. So you can also feed the baby in a cradle or cross cradle position. It's perfectly fine sitting in bed. But what I recommend doing is, in addition to the pillow behind your back, you want to keep a pillow or two under your knees as well. And this just kind of lifts things up for you so that your lower back is not taking the brunt of it. If you sit with your legs stretched out in bed, it's going to start causing a little bit of back pain. And to avoid that, definitely use two pillows under your knees. I have a pillow over here as well, just because I like to get really comfortable when I do anything, and I would highly recommend that you form a nest around yourself, okay? And then if you're using the cross cradle, again, right hand for left breast, baby is fully supported by your forearm, and the left hand goes to the left breast, so it's a good setup for you. And if you were simply cradling, again, you're just going to wrap your hand around the baby, and that's the position that you get into. Of course, you want to make sure you have the pillow right under you so that you're not putting in any effort to stay in this position. So these are great options for you, sitting in chair, sitting in the bed, and it's very important that you find as many pillows, get as comfortable as you can, because you're going to be spending a lot of time breastfeeding in the early days postpartum. And if you're going to get really comfortable, accept that this is how much time you're going to spend doing this, not keep looking at the clock to see how long I've been in this position breastfeeding. If you have no pain when you breastfeed, you're going to really enjoy this phase, and it is going to be that bonding experience that you want it to be. So that's all about positioning your baby at the breast, getting really comfortable. You have so many options to choose from. Sitting in a chair, you have the cradle, you have the cross cradle, the football. When you get into bed, you can use the laid back position. You can switch things up, of course, in bed, also going back to your football, which is a great position to even rest in as you breastfeed. Now, remember that what's more important than anything else is being comfortable. So do what comes to you naturally. Switch things up so that you have least amount of pain when you breastfeed and you maximize milk transfer. Speaking of which, the latch is most important when it comes to ensuring that your milk transfers adequately from the breast to the baby. And in the next video, we're going to talk about getting your baby to latch deeply, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in the next episode. So I'm Dr. Sonali Santanam, signing off here from Birth Basics. I'll see you there.